Hello, Movie Crusaders, and welcome to another episode of the Weekend Crusaders. As always, my name is Sean Waskrug, and with me every week is Brian Michaels. He just hasn't gotten sick of me yet. We got 5 new movies. A little bit. I see you broke my flow, and now you're like maybe go, oh no, he's gonna break up with me next episode. The plot thickens on the Weekend Crusaders.
I already quit earlier today, so why not?
That is very true. What the hell is that T-shirt? Love Burger?
Love Burger. Anybody here order a Love Burger? Well done. The viewers will get that. Can't hardly wait. Anyway.
Oh shit. Okay. Spoiler alert. We're gonna be talking about that movie when we get to that weekend. So we will definitely be talking about Can't Hardly Wait. But that is not this episode. This episode, we have 5 movies that came out during the weekend of March. Was it 26th through 28th? Yeah, 26th through the 28th. I say this, our stinker this week. Here's the thing with our stinkers, Brian. I think you agree with it. They're either really bad but fun to like make fun of and watch.
Street Fighter. Sorry.
Street Fighter, 50 Shades of Black, Paul Blart, stuff like that. Or they're just ridiculously dull and boring where you and I just want to like stab ourselves for something to happen because it's so boring. And sadly, that's what's going on this week. So we decided to go with this one first because we just want to get it over with and talk about it so we can move on. And that is the Coen brothers film, The Lady Killers. Lady Killers came out March 26th, 2004, had a budget of $35 million, had a weekend opening of $12.6 million, which was second in its opening weekend behind Scooby-Doo Monsters Unleashed, also in its first week. We did almost talk about that movie. Had a finished box office of $76.66 million, $39.79 million domestic, and $36.86 million international. Now, I think, Brian, you and I are both kind of like Coen Brothers. We like some, we don't like some.
Coen Brothers definitely is, for me, is very hit and miss. I tend to like I tend to like their comedies more than their more dramatic films. I like The Big Lebowski. I like Raising Arizona. Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Even Hudsucker Proxy, I enjoy, even though a lot of people aren't as big on that one. So this one showed up. I'm like, hey, it's a comedy from the Coen Brothers. It's got Tom Hanks in the lead, J.K. Simmons, a bunch of other people. This is going to be great, right? Right?
I remember when I first saw the trailer for this because was this right after Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? I'm trying to think of where this was in the Coen Brother.
Well, this one was 2004. Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? I want to say it was more like 2001. Was it something like that?
Did they do something between it?
I don't know. You talk. I'll look it up.
All right, but yeah, I mean, I remember just being like, "Here's this trailer." Like I said, like you said, Hanks, Simmons, Marlon Wayans, Ryan Hurst, coming right off of Remember the Titans. I mean, cast-wise, it looked like this could be really good. Burn After Reading, I think, was right around this time as well.
Yeah, well, Brother Arthur was 2000, and then there was Man Who Wasn't There, Intolerable Cruelty, then Lady Killers.
Okay, so it wasn't right in that realm with the other ones, but nonetheless, I was agreeing with you. We saw this trailer. I was like, this looks like it could be a lot of fun, and then I went and saw it in theaters, and I was like, oh my god, this movie sucks. And when we both went into this weekend, we both were like, I mean, the clear answer is Lady Killers, right? And we both agreed, and then we got to this week, and we're like, can we watch something else besides Lady Killers? Like, I don't want to be bored. And we looked through the list, we're like, Lady Killers is clearly the choice.
Yeah.
Brian, what are your thoughts on Lady Killers? I mean,
like you say, our stinkers are always, we have like different levels of stinkers, and some stinkers are just like the worst movies ever made. And this one is not one of those. This is one of those that's a stinker because it's such a disappointment. Because the sum of its parts, based on the cast and directors and all that, this should have been just hilarious. And I mean, I laughed a few times in the movies. There's funny scenes, funny moments.
We laughed at one person in this movie. We laughed at one person.
There were a couple other moments and single lines and things like that made me chuckle. But overall, it was just like it just didn't do it for me. Yeah, I mean, now granted, I've actually seen the original 1955, I want to say it is, version with Alec Guinness, because I like Alec Guinness, and I've always wanted to see like his old comedies that were supposed to be so good. That one is even less funny than this. So let me just say right now, don't bother going back and watching that one. But Yeah, this movie, it's first of all, you have Tom Hanks playing Colonel Sanders, apparently, even though that, yeah, and it's like this 1950s caricature, but it's obviously modern day because you got
Yeah.
Marlon Wayans listening to rap music and stuff. So it's like, I don't know. I mean, clearly Tom
Oh, no,
Hanks
no,
thought
no.
it was a very funny
Remember,
character.
remember, it's not rap music. It's hippity hop
That's
music.
hippity hop music, yeah.
Hippity hop music. Oh God.
But I mean, Tom Hanks clearly thought, I think like we talked about this, is that Tom Hanks probably thought, hey, it's the Coen brothers, I can do this comedy. And he tried to create like this character. He was trying to act funny, which we started discussing, realizing he doesn't do a lot of, create these funny characters. There's like this Forrest Gump, kind of a comedy.
You can
Like
kind of count Woody. You can count Woody in there, but in
yeah,
his
the
young,
Terminal, but he traditionally plays just kind of himself as a normal person. So here, when he's
yeah,
like doing funny accent and making funny faces and that, I don't want to say it's not even his thing because I don't think it's his fault. I just think the script he was given was just not funny.
I think he was, and granted, we know he can do comedy. Younger Tom Hanks. I mean, you had Big, Bachelor Party, Splash, Turner and Hooch. You have all
Oh,
these.
absolutely, he can do comedy. That's what he was
He's
known for.
good.
People are surprised we went to drama. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I think he was just like, I've done drama for so long. It'd be nice to do a comedy, but with Coen Brothers, it's a comedy drama. I'm not going straight into like a slapstick thing. I can kind of find a good mixture. And I think with him, he just read this script and how dull it was. He's like, how can I make this livelier? Oh, I'll do a foghorn leghorn kind of thing. And it's just like, oh my God. And he makes weird noises throughout this movie. He's wearing false teeth. He's just like sticking out like this, like he's got
And
Bugs
that's
Bunny.
something they carried over from the Alec Guinness version. I don't know why. Of all the things they carried over, the false
Oh,
teeth
is that
carried
what that
over.
is? He's
Yeah.
basically okay. I thought that
Yeah.
was a choice by him because I clearly have not seen the original cut.
Yeah. No problem.
But it's not it's more sad because it makes Tom Hanks look he's so desperate for a laugh. Whereas like Marlon Wayans, which yes, granted, we shitted on him hardcore with 50 Shades of Black.
I
But
shit on Marlon Wayans in most movies. I am not a Marlon Wayans fan.
I like Marlon Wayans. But we
here,
liked him in this. He was funny in this. Like
not everything he did in this is funny, but the
no,
lines, most of the parts we laughed at were him.
more times it was more or less Marlon Wayans and J.K. Simmons going back and forth. That was really good because J.K. is great. Even in this, I think he's really solid. It's just that J.K.'s so good at doing kind of like bland, direct like lines to someone that it's dry enough to be funny because it's J.K. But when everyone else,
when his biggest jokes are, "Ooh, I gotta take a shit."
oh my God, the irritable bowel syndrome thing, which for the first act of the film, at first like almost
It's
2
never
acts,
mentioned.
never mentioned, never a problem. Then when they start to do the big heist and everything afterwards, he has it like every 5 minutes, which is like, okay, Coen brothers, you guys are like these epic directors and writers. You should have had this kind of happening in
Set
the
it up
from
at least just one time. Mention it one
yeah,
time earlier in the film.
not just him mention it and then instantly have it, and then instantly have it, and instantly have it. Granted, the stress level of him from the beginning of the film to the end of the film makes it heightened, but you can't just blatantly throw this thing in there and then have it dictate the flow of the movie from the rest of the way. Because it's just like it's more or less like they just ran into a like and this is a classic, so or a remake, so it's not like they didn't was that in the remake? Was that in the original?
I don't think so, but I don't remember it well enough to.
Yeah, but it's just like it's almost like they forgot. Like they ran into a hole. Like how can we get out of the situation, or what would cause them to mess up the situation? Oh, we'll throw his IBS into the situation.
Well, that's one of the weirdest things about this movie is, especially with the Coen brothers, they have kind of a certain brand of comedy, and there's certain scenes like that. I remember the diner scene. There's some dialogue in this one diner scene, which it just felt like it was not so much the Coen brothers as somebody else trying to write a Coen brothers movie, because the styles of comedy in this movie are so clashing. Because you got Tom Hanks doing his weird character thing, you got Marlon Wayans doing his brand of comedy, throwing F-bombs around and stuff. I have no problem swearing, but just it didn't kind of fit with the rest of it. And then you have the physical comedy that the physical comedy of J.K. Simmons having IBS, and just all these different kind of clashing styles that didn't go together.
Even at that point, he didn't have the IBS at that point. At that point, he had just blown
Oh,
off.
the scene was I was talking about this the Coen Brothers style, but
Yeah, I'm
throughout
talking
the whole
about
movie things didn't mesh. Yeah.
well, it's just one of those things where it's like Marlon Wayans. You're like, okay, he's gonna play a stereotypical type of character that, clearly, it's that kind of character. And then you have him with all these others. You got Ryan Hurst, who I swear to God, his character. Loki says that's not cool.
That's his whole role, is to hold his mouth open and say things really slow.
That's not right. I'm like, come on. Ryan Hurst is a way better actor than that. Granted, and we even looked at this, like, is this the last, like, for mainly his last film role? I think he did Rango, which, if he's in Rango, he wasn't a name actor in that. But if anything, this movie got Ryan Hurst to go do Sons of Anarchy, which is great because I love him in Sons of Anarchy, where he actually gets to act in that. This is disrespectful to Ryan Hurst as an actor in this film. Like, he's coming off Remember the Titans, which I think you would agree in Remember the Titans, outside of Denzel and not Paxton,
Will Patton.
Patton. Outside of those two, I would say Ryan Hurst and I don't have the Remember the Titans cast. Strong side, left side, both of them. Julius in the film. They're the two big actors outside of those two, and I thought they had great futures going forward. And then he follows it up with this, and it's just like, you killed your career, which he didn't. Now he's he did Sons of Anarchy. He just got done doing a really good arc on The Walking Dead, but his character in this is. Again, they literally have to spell it out, at least in the 3 scenes, what his character is. He's a dumb brute. He's the primate. He's the muscle. He's the blah, blah, blah. And then they have to say that like 3 times. Like, we get what he is. You don't have to keep explaining what his character is. I mean, he's literally there drooling out of the mouth with his stupidity.
And they already spent a 5-minute unnecessary scene from Football Helmet Cam explaining that earlier.
Showing that he's like, oh, football, oh no.
I'm a brute.
Oh God, it's so bad. And and then Brian and we actually skipped parts in this movie because Coen Brothers decide, let's stop the story to do a 5-minute church session and then do it again later. And it's like, this has nothing to like. Granted, it has something to do with the main with what's her name, the main woman, Marva Munson, but it's like, you completely are putting a halt to the film. Like,
Coen Brothers really love to celebrate music in their films, and I'm fine with that. And there are even films like Oh Brother Where Art Thou, where the film will kind of get to a point and will play like an entire song performance. But in that band, the stars of the film were in the band playing the song. In this movie, more than their others, they literally, like, every 20, 30 minutes would decide, okay, we have to bring the movie to a screeching halt to show an entire choir performance of some gospel song which, I mean, we get it. She went to church. You don't need to show the entire service with a whole sermon and a whole choir performance. We're like, okay, can we just move on, please?
And then do it again later.
Yeah, we watched it through the first time, and when it hit the second one, we're like, okay, we're skipping a little bit of this.
Yeah, like, I can't watch another 5 minutes of this. Let's move forward. Which we're like, wait, they're breaking in? Did we skip something? You're like, you want to go back? I go, God, no. It's like, just keep going, But then, and then of course we get to the inevitable, like, everyone's so stupid at the end of the film that they all start getting knocked off. I mean, it's so dull. It's not like, there's a few chuckle moments, but by the end of the film, I think Grant, like, kind of like in a lot of the sneakers we've had, Brian and I both just kept going off screen because we were just getting more and more bored as we kept going.
We should start rating the movies by how many time checks we do.
Yes, we were doing time checks. I think we did at least 3 or 4 time checks. At least
3 or 4, yeah.
And there was one point I was like, time. Right, with the cursor. It's like it was enough to wake Brian up to go, huh? What? Oh,
I was awake. I just appeared asleep. So.
Yeah, it's just, look, we could keep talking about it, but I'm bored. I'm bored talking about Lady Killers.
I mean, the Coen Brothers have plenty of much better movies. Go watch one of those instead.
Exactly. And Tom Hanks has 1,000 better movies. Go watch.
Everyone in this movie has a better movie. Just
Yeah, exactly. Yes, I agree. Everyone in this film has better films than this one. Lady Killers is not on any streaming services, so you only have to pay to see it. Which don't pay to see it unless you want to watch something to put yourself to sleep. Then this is the movie for you. Or if you want to just see how bad Tom Hanks can do at trying to beat Daniel Craig from Knives Out, Daniel Craig does it better. But yeah, that's our stinker of the week. It is not our last movie that we're going to viciously attack, but that is not what we're doing next. I can't. Ooh, we're so gonna get into it. There might be screaming later, but we're not going to that yet. We're gonna go to our revisited film, which I'm shocked that you and I both didn't make this the feature because you and I both love this movie, and we really didn't need to revisit this because, honestly, I think the revisited and feature would have. I think that's what we did. We were like, this should be the feature, and the feature should be the revisited. But you were like, more people know the feature film than they do the revisited.
I think so. I think
that's what it was. I think you said the.
I think it actually came down to counting on Letterboxd how many of my friends had watched one versus the other, and one of them had like more than 3 times as many. So
yeah, so this is really our feature, but it's the revisited film because I think Brian and I both have a big love of this film. It's one of those movies where it's not a big movie. It's not, but it's one of those smaller movies that people are real fond of, like teenager or not teenagers, but like people my age. We loved She's All That. She's All That wasn't a big movie, but it was like a niche teen or Can't Hardly Wait for Brian and I. This is one that's a sports film. It's a film that I think most people know of or for the most part like, but it's not talked about a lot. It's not brought up enough. But whenever someone brings it up, everyone goes, "Oh, I love that!" And it did spawn some straight to VHS or straight to DVD sequels that no one ever saw.
We're talking about don't.
Yeah, but you don't.
They have nothing to do with the original, so don't pay attention.
Exactly, and I didn't watch any of those either. But we're talking about the original one, which was 1992's figure skating film, The Cutting Edge. The Cutting Edge came out March 27th, 1992. Could not find the budget for this film. I looked, could not find it. So couldn't tell you what it was. Had a weekend opening of $4.47 million. It was number 6 in its opening weekend behind White Man Can't Jump in its first week, Basic Instinct in its second week, Wayne's World in its 7th week, My Cousin Vinny in its 3rd week, and Ladybugs. This is a big sports weekend. 3 sports movies came out this weekend, and had a finished box office of $25.1 million. I think Brian and I both said the same thing when Cutting Edge. When we were looking through the list, and it was like Cutting Edge, and we both went toe pick. I think that's the one quote. If you say toe pick around anyone who knows movies, everyone immediately goes Cutting Edge. And It's like, yes.
There's very few one-word quotes that you can do. That's one.
It's a total one-word quote that everyone knows right off the bat if they had seen the film. It just it stays in your brain because it's funny. It's a funny thing. It's something so basic. It ended up being really great. I'm not a big figure skating fan, but surprisingly, I like figure skating movies. This Blades of Glory. Blades of Glory is funny. It is. I know you don't. I know you and I both don't have a love for John Heder. We'll touch on that later in the year.
Moving on.
But I like Will Ferrell, Will Arnett, Amy Poehler. But Cutting Edge was one that was more. I don't want to say serious. It's like it's a drama, but I mean it's not necessarily a comedy.
It's not like a wacky comedy. It's almost more a rom-com kind of thing.
It is.
And even then, even though it's more of a dramatic thing, then yeah.
Yeah, like Wimbledon is a dramatic rom-com-y tennis film. This is that, but figure skating.
Yeah.
We follow was it DB Sweeney? He's this like up and coming, even though he looks way older than what he's supposed to be in this film. He's like an up and coming like college hockey player who's playing for the U.S. Olympic team, and Maura Kelly, who we've already expressed that we love her on the show before. She's a duo's a figure skater, and they're both at the Olympics. Maura Kelly's character, she falls during her final performance, misses out on the gold. DB Sweeney's character gets injured in his hockey match, and he loses 18% of his peripheral vision, which effectively means he can't play hockey anymore, or no hockey team will sign him because he's got a blind spot. We jump ahead 2 years, and basically they are brought together to become a new duo for the upcoming Winter Olympics. Training stuff.
She's gone through every possible
I think she said
partner.
like 30.
And the figure skating, she always finds something. She always basically drives them away because she's so hard to work with. So basically, I don't remember if it's the coach or her father. I think it's her father decides, okay, we're going to try something different, and so he goes and tries to recruit this hockey player instead. So
I think it's the coach and her father, which her father is John Locke, Mr. Terry O'Quinn, with hair in this one, which is so weird seeing him with hair. And the coach, I actually really love the coach. It was Roy Dotrice.
I'm not sure how it's pronounced, honestly, but
yeah, he's Pomchenko. I love that guy in this movie. But they bring DB Sweeney's Doug Dorsey on to partner with Kate Mosley, and she's stuck up rich girl. She thinks she's above him. He's lower class, she's high class. So they have that clash between them, and they eventually start working together, figuring stuff out. And then, of course, it's romantic, so emotions and relationships grew. Yeah, but it's one of those things where it's like, the one thing I liked about this compared to other like sports rom-coms is that with a lot of sports rom-coms, a lot of the romantic stuff to build a relationship happens away from the sport. It's happening all off to the side, to the point where it's like, oh, are you guys forgetting that this is a sports movie? In this one, all the romantic build-up and everything happens in the training, in the sport itself.
Yeah, and I think that's because being figure skating as opposed to another sports where if there's a romance, it's probably going to be like a guy and his off-court girlfriend or whatever it is. But here it's like the chemistry between the two is essential to being a good team, and and they have to get along, and the chemistry, and if they're truly in love or whatever, supposedly that convey that it can really show in their way they work together. So like you said,
there's one point in the film where they're fighting, and they do the whole dance sequence or whatever, and they're saying like, wow, they just look like they weren't having any fun out there. They were going through the motions. There's no emotion between them. But then when they are in their groove, they're on fire, basically. And like I said, DB Sweeney's not the greatest actor, but he's got great comedic timing, and he works really well with Moira Kelly. I think their chemistry, this like hot and cold between them, I think works really well. Then you add Roy Dotrice, however you say his name, as their coach. I love the interaction between those three. Terry O'Quinn's not in the movie enough to really be a big factor, but it's a great story between those three working together to get to the Olympics. The ice skating, the only thing I think I'm not a huge fan of now, that when I was younger I didn't really pay attention to, is they do this kind of like black and white, like old film timey kind of like speed up when they're figure skating, because clearly they can't. It's not the real acting.
They're trying to hide the fact that it's doubles, exactly. So they do a lot of quick camera movements and a lot of like kind of out of focus.
They do this like intense sports music when they're doing like da 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 da, and it's like grainy and stuff, so you can't clearly see that it's them doing it, which is like, I get it. It's movie magic. It's 1992, but it kind of takes you out of the film a little bit. But it only happens here and there in small points. But it's like, I'm nitpicking at this point to find ways that I didn't like this film. But I enjoy the chemistry of the two leads. I love the coach. And for a figure skating movie, it's good. I enjoy it. It's one of those movies that I think next year is the 30th anniversary of it.
Yeah.
And
wow.
And I still think fondly of it. And watching it today, I was like, I remember I really liked this film. Brian, do you have anything else to add with Cutting Edge?
No, I mean the first time I went and saw this, I remember it was a bunch of us from work, and I worked at a video store, and so we closed up and like, hey, let's go see a movie this weekend. So we close up and go, and like we decided to go see this one, and we're like, figure skating movie, fine, whatever, it's something to see. And we came out of there, and all of us, the men and women alike, and everybody, we really enjoyed this movie. And you know, it's got kind of the sports atmosphere, which even if you're not into figure skating, it's got the same kind of energy to it as like any other sports movie, because it's got kind of the underdogs that are trying to win the championship, and there's kind of, you know, or learn to overcome the odds and the conflict and all that kind of. It's kind of a universal.
There are big character arcs for these characters that are hidden underneath a sports movie, with DB's character trying to show that he can be something outside of this injury, and then with Maura Carey's character, there's a bigger story there. It doesn't overshadow it, but there's more character arc to them than just they're figure skaters.
Yeah, and both DB Sweeney and Moira Kelly, both of them I've always liked, and they've never been really big stars. I mean, they always kind of pop up in movies and things here and there, but I always like both of them when they show up. I did find it interesting. It was directed by Starsky from Starsky and Hutch, the TV series. Really? And the only things he had done before this was like The Running Man. So it's a very odd choice to direct this movie, but it apparently did a good job. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fun, and like you, I don't mind revisiting it years later. So
yeah, it's one of those, like, I think a lot of sports people will be like, I don't want to watch a figure skating movie that's not a comedy with Will Ferrell, but it's like, trust me, if you guys have never seen The Cutting Edge, check it out. It's you know, it's very 90s, obviously, but it's good 90s. It's not like, oh god, this is all the bad things from the 90s. It really, yeah, I think for a sports film, rom-com, but more drama than comedy, I think it works really well for what it was. It's definitely something, like let's put it this way. No, I don't want to put it up against that.
I honestly think kind of the reason it works for so many people is because it's not overbearing in any one aspect. It's about sports, but it's not so sports that like non-sports people won't like it. It's got romance, but it's not so much about the romance that sports fans won't like it. You know, it's kind of got kind of everything to it.
Yeah, it's more about their partnership and them learning to work together, and him trying to overcome her high class bitchiness, basically, and her also trying to get over her fears of failure and stuff like that. And I think it meshes really, really well. I mean, it's not the best sports movie out there, but it's definitely something different. And it's unique because it's a figure skating movie, and there's not a whole lot of them out there outside of like I, Tonya and, you know, Blades of Glory. But if you guys have never seen Cutting Edge, it is definitely one worth checking out if you like sports movies and you want to see in my opinion, a great 90s rom-com / drama sports film. I don't believe this is on any streaming services.
Right? Well, you can watch it on Pluto TV with ads. And you can watch it if your library participates in Hoopla. It's available to check out through that.
Gotcha. So definitely check that out if you guys are interested in it. Brian and I both think very fondly of this film. And I think a lot of, you know, true sports fans, if you guys watch all sports movies, I think everyone is like, oh, Cutting Edge. Yeah, I like Cutting Edge for the most part.
No, Sean does feel strongly. I mean, he really loves this movie, but not as much as he loves our next one.
Nice lead up. We did kind of tease this last week, so if you guys didn't watch last week's episode, shame on you. When we make our picks, our personal picks, it's usually movies that we're fond of that we want the other one to see, or it's something that we really want to talk about that maybe the other one isn't as big of wanting to watch. Like Brian likes to choose weird movies for me to watch, like Ravenous last week, or The Vanishing. But this week is a little bit different for me. I'm picking a movie that I downright despise. I hate this film. I wanted to be the stinker, but Brian's like, I don't think this is stinker worthy. And I said, well, then fuck you. I'm making this my pick, and I'm going to trash it because I hate this movie so much that I actually made myself watch it again, because part of me was like, and here, like I said, we're going to get into this one really deep. When I first saw this film, all I heard about was like, oh my god, this is the scariest movie since The Exorcist. I don't know why I'm doing a voice, but I don't know why I did a voice there, but it happened. All I kept hearing is it's the scariest movie since The Exorcist, and I sounded like the one actor
Apparently
from
Captain Howdy was telling you that. Okay.
Independence Day. But anyway, all I kept hearing is that it's the scariest film since The Exorcist, and it's terrifying. Blah 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 blah. I go and I see this movie with a buddy of mine, and within the first 5 minutes, I'm like, this is so easily solvable. Like, you can solve this thing right away. Like, this is very stupid. And then we both kind of ended up doing like a Mystery Science 3000 with the film. We just kept poking at it and poking at the stupid stuff in this film. And I just kept watching the reviews going, this is a classic. This is amazing. It's like a 90-something% on Rotten Tomato. And it just kept making me angrier and angrier about how horrible this fucking film is. So I chose it today. And if you guys have seen the picture, you guys already know what movie I'm talking about. And that is the 2015 horror film, It Follows. It Follows came out March 27th, 2015, had a budget of $2 million, had a weekend opening of $3.8 million. It made $565,000 in previous weeks on limited releases. It was number 5 its opening weekend behind Home in its first week, Get Hard in its first week, the Divergent series Insurgent, I can't remember if that's the second or the third one, in its second week, and Cinderella in its third week. It had a finished box office of $21.72 million, $14.67 million domestic, $7.05 million international. Yeah, this movie. Like I said, I hate this film. It is about an STD ghost. You laugh, but it is. It is an STD ghost. Here's the general plot for anyone who doesn't know what this film's about. I'm not going to use Brian as an example because that'd make it really weird. Let's say I have sex with a girl and she's one of the infected. If I have sex with her,
there's only one infected at any given time.
Yeah, exactly what I'm saying. If she was infected and I had sex with her unknowingly, knowing what was going on, because let's face it, everyone in the movie doesn't know until it starts to happen, she transfers this infection, this STD ghost, to me. Which thus, at some point, I will start seeing a random person. Could be dead, could be naked, could be fully clothed, could look like someone I know, could not look like someone I know. Just fucking random. Slowly walk towards me at this pace the entire time. No one else can see her but me, or him, but me. And if it touches me, which was also bullshit based off the movie, if it touches me, I die. And the only way I can get this thing to leave me alone is to have sex with someone else and infect them. And then if that ghost kills them, it'll come back to me until I can have sex with someone else. That is the fucking plot of this stupid-ass movie. I hate it. Most terrifying movie since The Exorcist? Yeah, if you're a slut. My God, this movie's stupid. Or man whore. I'm not going to attack gender. Man whore, slut, whatever. If you're randomly hooking up with random people, then yes, this movie might be terrifying for you.
Actually, that'd be who wouldn't be terrified, because they'd pass it on to someone else as soon as they got it.
Yeah, but it's not knowing who they are that they could randomly just catch this thing. But it's just, oh my God, it's so stupid. First off, you solve the movie in the first 5 minutes. You get infected by this thing. You find out you were infected by this thing. You go have sex with a fucking prostitute, man whore, gigolo, whatever. Because you know what? Their job is to have sex with people. You have sex with them. They'll have sex with someone else probably an hour later. And then it jumps 2 people. And then let's say they kill that one person. It goes back to the prostitute who's probably going to have sex with someone else and then move on and so forth. It'll take forever for it to come back to you. And if it does, you just go have sex with another prostitute or gigolo or whatever. You can survive off this thing. Which, granted, that's what they decide to think of doing at the end of the fucking movie. But literally in the first 5 minutes, if you can figure out how to take care of this horror thing in the first 5 minutes of the movie, outside of like shooting in the head, it's not a good story. Now, I'm going to talk about another thing. Brian's having. I've already said all this to Brian, so Brian's hearing this all over again.
I don't need to be here for this whole segment. I can.
Yeah, shut up, Brian. It's like this movie has also the most pointless fucking character in movie history. This character's name is Yara, played by Olivia Luccardi. I don't care who I piss off. This actress clearly is either related to the directors or having sex with one of them. Her character serves no purpose in this film except to just eat up time. She is the one character that literally brings no purpose. She's in any other horror film, she would be one of the ones that gets killed. She doesn't get killed at all in this fucking film. She's just this annoying friend who's around, who has I'll touch on that. But anyway, she's literally, her first line of the movie is, "Hold on, I have an idea," and farts. and goes, "Oh, it escaped me." That is the introduction to this character. And then the rest of the film, her character just spouts off random fucking lines off of this clamshell that's a Kindle, that there's no technology of this Kindle and anyone else. No one else has this thing except this freaking girl reads off pointless fucking quotes. And that is her character for this entire film. There's no point to this character. She's pointless. She's a shitty actress. Clearly, she has connections to be forced into this film. She's the most worthless character in any movie I've ever seen. I wish they would have killed her in this movie. Cannot stand this character. I go back to the clamshell thing. The directors, and Brian's going to use this, and I'm not going to attack it. Brian's going to say, well, the director said that the timeline of this movie is, it could be any time. Fuck you. This is an 80s to mid-90s film. All the TVs are old tube TVs. Everything they're watching is either black and white or it's old-timey cartoons. All the cars, except for one, is really old-timey cars. Yes, there's a cell phone in the first scene of the film, but you know what? Cell phones were mid-90s. No one is on their cell phones throughout any of this film. No one's on their cell phones while they're going to a movie. They have an old-timey movie with a guy who plays the fucking piano. Everything in this movie, the way the houses look, the way the inside the houses look, everything in this film is showing that it is 80s to mid-90s tops. And here's this one fucking character who has a pink clamshell Kindle that is reading a book off a Kindle. I hate this movie so much. Brian, you're going to argue this. I don't care. You're wrong. But go. It follows. Go.
I'm not sure I want to bother, but okay.
The fucking end. I hate the ending so much. Go.
First of all, if it makes you feel any better, while the critic score is 95% Rotten Tomatoes, the audience score is only 66. So
still too high. Still too high.
Now,
I should be like 10.
I don't love this movie. When I first saw this movie, I kind of dug that it had kind of a unique vibe to it and stuff, and it kind of like a little bit of the style of it. The plot has holes, 1,000 holes to it. The main one being that 5 minutes in, everyone else figured out 20 ways to end it. You know, like Sean said.
You could literally move across country.
And it would take months for it to get, yeah.
Because it's walking like this. It doesn't get in a car. It doesn't fly. It doesn't run. Yeah. You can get away from this thing and live.
You've talked.
Go on. Go on.
So it has plot holes, but you know, I kind of like the vibe. I like that it was doing something a little bit different, and so I gave it a mid to high rating. On rewatch, I did not enjoy it as much, but I don't hate this nearly as much as Sean does. Although it would be hard to hate it as much as Sean does, admittedly. The timeline thing. Yes, the director says that it's intentionally, you know, kind of ambiguous as to when it takes place. It's not set in any one time because yes, there's cell phones. Yes, there's some new cars. Yes, there's old cars, old houses. There's a Kindle. There's an old timey piano, but that's not 80s or 90s either. That's going back to like, you know.
No, I'm talking about in the movie. I'm talking about in the movie theater.
I know. I'm saying movie theaters didn't have that in the 80s or 90s either. So you.
I know.
So it could be. So he basically could take place. It's not supposed to be set in any one kind of time. But anyway, we'll go with that.
There's no point to the Kindle.
Overall,
there's no point to the Kindle in the movie. There's no fucking point.
But I mean, while it does definitely have its plot holes. It is kind of, at least it was a little bit of a unique idea. And while it is kind of silly, the more you look at it, I don't hate the movie. I mean, I'm not sure I would have ever watched it a second time if I wasn't watching it again to talk about it here. But I don't hate it. You know, and I might as well lead into this for Sean. He's going to is the ending. The ending. There's one boy who is basically in love with the lead character. He's a friend, but he's always been in love with her. He finally sleeps with her, basically to take the curse.
Such an awkward sex scene on top of it.
Take the curse from her, and then he drives off. And like you see him driving through this kind of seedy part of town, and you see him drive past these two prostitutes. You kind of look at him, and he drives past those two, but it's the director has stated, because it is. Even in the theater, I thought, did he end up sleeping with one or not? And you never really know for sure. And the director has said it is intentionally ambiguous as to whether or not he slept with someone, what happened? Because then in the next scene, in the final scene, he and the girl are walking down the street, and then at one point he turns and looks behind them and sees someone following them, walking slowly behind them. But you don't know, is it this demon, ghost, whatever it is following them, or is it just an actual person walking? You don't know. And Sean seems to know for a fact that what didn't happen, even though, you know, it's supposed to be ambiguous. But anyway, my whole point is that the movie, while not great, is not, in my opinion, as terrible as Sean reacted to it. But he's entitled to his opinions.
Ambiguous is like the ending of Inception, okay? Whether he's still in the dream world, or whether he's not in the dream world. This is a clear cut. Dude didn't sleep with a prostitute. First shot of that scene, there's no one walking down the street behind him. Next shot, there's someone walking down the street slowly, creepily behind him. Meaning he didn't have sex with the prostitute because he's in love with the main girl. He doesn't want to cheat on her, blah, blah, blah. So they'll just transfer it back and forth, which wait till she finds out about that.
Because they're just inferring all that stuff. And nowhere does this say that.
Oh my God, you weren't paying attention to this character through the entire fucking film. This character never would do it.
He went to save her life. To save her life, he would go do this.
No, he wouldn't. I don't care. The way they did that just shows that, no. You know what? And the directors, and what the great thing is that they kept having to ask the directors these questions because they're fucking stupid plot holes, and they didn't think about it. They go, well,
I don't think that's it. Honestly, this is my opinion, but I honestly think that it wasn't a matter of the director making excuses for plot holes he left in the movie. I believe he did leave so many things, timelines and ending, other things, ambiguous. Do I think those things were stupid to leave so ambiguous, or it was lazy filmmaking? Absolutely, I agree. But
there's no.
But honestly, this one feels very much to me like it was kind of at the beginning of like the whole A24 horror era, where it's kind of all these more kind of artsier horror, and which are clearly not my type of thing. But this one feels very much like those, where it's like trying to see, oh, look how much smarter we are than you. And it's like, no, you're just kind of being lazy filmmaking.
It is lazy filmmaking because literally at the beginning of the film, the main guy, who I actually like that actor because he's on the TV show Animal Kingdom, and he's great on that show. He's not that great in this movie, but he literally says, "Don't let it touch you. If it touches you, you're dead." Literally, the thing grabs the girl on the beach. And
it grabs her by the hair on the beach, and then later on it grabs her leg and like it leaves a mark, but it doesn't kill her.
She doesn't die. So once again, you've already contradicted what you've set up through this film at the very beginning of the movie. And then there's no explanation to why this thing is what it is. It's just is. There's no any movie like The Ring, Grudge, anything with this like weird thing that we don't understand. There's someone figuring out origin. Why is this happening? Who's this happening to? We get nothing, which is supposed to make it scarier, I guess. No, it doesn't. The one thing I will give this film, if I'm going to give this film any nod at all, the actual scary moments, they do a pretty good job. It's effective. The bedroom scene with the big dude, that's an effective scene. The whole beach sequence, very effective. The pool scene, as dumb as an idea as it was for the kids to do this scene, it was effective. I didn't need to see a random naked dude standing on a roof looking at the girl, awkward, or just or one guy get killed by his mom fucking dry humping him, awkward as well. But it's the scary moments, they are decently shot and good in that sense. That does not make this a good movie. And then you know what? Had this not been so overly blown out of proportion of this being so highly reviewed and highly praised and all this, I wouldn't give a shit about this film. I wouldn't care. Like, oh, it's a shitty horror film. It's what it is. But for all this high praise that this film got, being the scariest film since The Exorcist, which, why is that always the landmark now? The scariest film since
I don't know, first of all, because I didn't find Exorcist scary at all.
I don't either, but that like Hereditary did the same thing. Midsommar, well,
don't get me started on Hereditary.
I love Hereditary, but what I'm saying,
Hereditary review would be the opposite. It would be me ranting about Hereditary.
And then it would be defending it. But that's the same thing. Like when Hereditary came out, it was scariest movie since The Exorcist. This same thing, scariest movie. When did The Exorcist become the like benchmark of scariest film. Like I don't get why that is the. I mean, has nothing to do with the film. This is, you know, the press talking about this. I don't get why The Exorcist is the benchmark to the scariest movie of all time. I saw The Exorcist when I was a kid. It's fine. It's not anything great. The Exorcism of Emily Rose is 1,000 times better than The Exorcist. I don't care if you're mad at me at that. It is. That movie's way better. But God damn, I hate that character girl, that Yara girl. That's what pisses me off more than anything. Is that fucking pink clamshell Kendall. That is the bane of my existence. I hate that so much. I can't get over it. I can't. If you take that character out of this movie, yes, granted, it's still a stupid plot film about an STD ghost. But forcing that girl into this film and just having her whole character be reading this stupid clamshell and spouting off a random ass quote that has nothing to do with the fucking film. And she reads the quote and everyone's just like, yeah, okay. And just keep going on with it. Like, what's the point? What is the point? Anyway.
On the plus side, Sean, on the plus side, it's the most accessible movie of the week. You can watch it on Pluto TV, on Shudder, on the Roku channel, and on Tubi TV.
And what's sad about this is I've checked our friends on Letterboxd, and some people have given this thing a perfect score.
Oh, there are lots of people
who me even
they're the
more.
same people who like the A24 crap, yeah.
Don't know. I thought Hereditary was one of the best movies of 2018. So I don't care. You thought Brothers Grimsby was hilarious and movie 43 was hilarious. So don't you come at me with that crap. It's God, I hate this film. Let's
move on.
I got it out of my system. We've had this thing planned since I think January, and it's finally happened. There's only one other film that gets me there's two other films that get me this angry. One of them I'm fighting with Brian right now to make a stinker because Brian doesn't think it's a stinker, and I don't know if I'm going to make it another one of these picks. And the other one will be a stinker, I think, which we'll get to it. But let's move on from this. What is this on HBO Max?
No, I just listed. No, it was on Tubi TV, Shudder, Roku channel, and Pluto TV.
Yeah. Anyway. I'm not going to even say watch it. I don't want you guys to watch it. It's a stupid fucking film. It doesn't deserve all the praise it's getting. I've already given it too much of my free time. We're going to move on to Brian's pick, which there's a lot of hate for this movie. I don't hate this movie. Clearly you don't because you made it your pick and you're not doing what I did.
And this is not what I did not do this way. Sean did his pick now.
No, like you did it because you like this film. And like this movie got Razzie Awards. Like people were attacking the director for this film, and I was like, I don't hate this movie. Anyway, this is Brian's pick, and that is the Kevin Smith directed film Jersey Girl. Jersey Girl came out March 26, 2004, had a budget of $35 million, had a weekend opening of $8.3 million, which was fifth on its opening weekend behind Scooby-Doo, Monsters Unleashed in its first week, Lady Killers in its first week, Passions of the Christ in its fifth week, and Dawn of the Dead in its second week. You know, we have been picking a lot of movies that have all came out the same weekend. Had a finished box office of $35.49 million, had $25.26 million domestic, and $10.2 million international. Brian, since this is your film, and I spoke already way too much about It Follows, take it away with Jersey Girl.
Yeah, so Jersey Girl was the first Kevin Smith movie that was not one of his View Askew universe films. And I think that's one of the reasons that it got so much criticism and in some cases hate, but a lot of disappointment from people is because I think Kevin Smith fans, went to another Kevin Smith movie expecting, the same kind of movie that they've gotten before with Jay and Silent Bob and zany hijinks and all that kind of stuff. And that just isn't this movie. This movie does have, some with blue humor, whatever you want to call it, kind of a couple of the Dick and Bart joke kind of things. But really, those are kind of the minority in this. This is more a movie about the relationship between this father, who's a single parent because his wife died in childbirth, and trying to get a relationship with his child, and at the same time, him and his father as well. But the problem
and overcoming guilt.
Yeah. And the problem there also is that for anybody who's going in wanting to see a movie of relationship of a father and a daughter, like it seems like a family film kind of thing, but it's not a family film because of like I said, the Kevin Smith kind of humor that is sprinkled throughout. So this movie had a hard time finding an audience, and they're very, I think, little overlap. I mean, I'm perfectly in that zone because I'm a parent, and so I love these kind of movies with our father and daughter. But I also, love Kevin Smith, his kind of comedy. So this movie kind of really hit me perfectly. Another thing I think worked against it. This came out at the height of the Ben Affleck, Jennifer Lopez thing, because Gigli had just come out just before this, and he had shown up in her music videos and stuff, and they were a couple, and they were like the most overexposed couple in the tabloids and everything. So I think that brought a lot of hate on the movie as well. But really, I mean, I think, I don't know, it's hard to describe, but this is a movie that I think was an excellent mix for me of kind of a real story, which a lot of Kevin Smith's movies are more just kind of day in the life, of the mall, of the clerks, of whatever. It had like a real story that she has an emotional heart, but it was able to mix that, real heart with some just good old-fashioned Kevin Smith comedy. What did you think in general?
Yeah, I mean, with Jersey Girl, I mean, it's one of those where it's like I thought watching it the first time that, I mean, it was a decent film. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. Like, I thought it was solid. Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez have zero chemistry together, even though they did. Like, they don't have it in Gigli, and I definitely didn't have it in the first, what, it was like 10, 15 minutes?
She's only in like, 10, 15 minutes this movie.
Because she's the mother who dies during childbirth. And it's just like, I'm watching them, it's like, they are a couple during this, and they had no chemistry in this film. And but granted, they told a decent story. Ben Affleck's acting in this is not great, especially in the first half.
His acting's never great, though. I'm just gonna say that.
I don't hate Ben Affleck like you do. I think it gets better at times, but he's kind of a douche in this film. For most of the movie, he's a douche.
Granted, he's supposed to be.
Yeah,
it's supposed to be him learning to be, less selfish and more,
and grow up kind of thing. But no, I thought the performance of
Raquel
Dirty,
Castro?
Raquel Castro, I thought she, as a young actress, did a fantastic job.
Yeah, it very easily could have turned into one of those, who's a cute, cutesy, typical child star spouting little cute one-liners. But I think that she did a good kind of layered performance to it.
Exactly. Like I was gonna say that, like her layers of like she's smart, she's cute, she's funny, she's quick, she's clever, but she understands. Like she's not one of those like when he eventually starts kind of. I mean, they don't actually like date, but Liv Tyler's character kind of comes in and they're like kind of together, but they're not really kind of thing. She doesn't do the whole like you're not my mom and all this, but like she accepts everything. Like the first initial time when she asked Ben Affleck's character on a date, Gertie kind of is like accepting of it. She's like, "Aren't you going to take that girl on a date and stuff like that?" And there's an explosion at the end of the film, the big fight where she acts like a kid because that's the way kids act. And like I thought that was a very great scene by her, and like her growing up with this because her father is kind of a child in his own right. She's growing up as he's growing up as well. And I thought she put on a really good performance. I thought George Carlin put on a great performance as the dad. I thought he was some of my favorite parts of the movie was watching him as Ben Affleck's father. I loved his performance in this film. Liv Tyler's character, I mean, Liv Tyler's kind of a so-so actress, but I mean, she has better chemistry with Ben than J-Lo did. Which I mean, they were together in Armageddon, so they had that already kind of there. But I mean, it's got some cute funny moments. It's not anything like laugh out loud, but I think it's a kind of a beautiful little story where a guy has like this he had the perfect life, and then it all came crashing down, and he kind of had to learn to let go of his past and look at the world he has in front of him and grow. And that's the journey that we're on with Ben Affleck. And while he doesn't put on the greatest performance at all in this, I mean, I think he does a decent enough of a performance to make it believable by the end of the film. And I thought it was a solid film overall.
Yeah, and I think that one of the reasons I especially liked it, just like I said, as a father, I kind of got a lot of these scenes. Like there's the one scene where he and Gertie get in a screaming match, and at one point, she says, I hate you" or something, and he says, I hate you, and you ruined my life, basically all these things, horrible things he should never say to his
Yeah.
kid. And I kind of felt that. I mean, I never said that to
And
my kid.
her reaction to it, I thought was perfect.
Yeah, and I mean, I've never said that to my kid, but I've definitely, yelled things, and I'm like, oh, I should not have said it. You feel the instant remorse. You could see that in Ben Affleck's face, and you kind of, a lot of those moments I could just kind of feel as a father. So I really identified with a lot of this movie. Not obviously not exactly in the ways that he went through them,
Yeah.
but I think that it's helped me enjoy it on another level. But I really think this movie has what was unfairly received when it first came out. I think if more people went back and watched it now, I mean, not everybody's going to love it, as much as I do, but I think a lot of people might give it more of a chance now because Kevin Smith has gone off and done other things besides View Askew. Now, granted, a lot of them weren't that great. You had Tusk and Red State and these kind of things, which were they were very different, but at least then they knew that it wasn't, you shouldn't always expect View Askew from Kevin Smith. And I think so a lot of people would be more receptive to this if they would have watched it now.
I agree. Plus, this movie has one of my favorite plays of all time in Sweeney Todd in it.
The Sweeney Todd performance is great. I love that.
Yeah, the whole Sweeney Todd performance I thought was awesome, especially the the end. I love that end.
Yeah.
I
also just wanted to mention briefly two great character actors. One's a little more famous than the other, but Stephen Root and Mike Starr as George Carlin's friends. I love them in this movie.
Yeah, they had funny moments in it, and like I said, like the way it builds up to the end, the last scene, with the father-daughter dance, and I thought that was a beautiful, touching little moment. Which and then of course we get the tagline at the end to Kevin Smith saying goodbye to his dad.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a sweet moment as well. Which means that he had motivation to make this kind of film. He wasn't making it just to make it. He was making it for a personal reason. I mean, granted, it wasn't like this was the life story of Kevin Smith as a child, but you know what I mean. But I mean, it's and it's for View Askew. I mean, it's got it's got little cameos from actors. There's no Jason Mewes or Kevin Smith is not on camera at all. But I mean, you get a nice scene with Will Smith in this, which I thought was a really good.
They used him in a very fun way. You got Jason Lee shows up, Matt Damon shows up.
Yeah, they all show up. I mean, I think it's decent, and I agree. It's wrongfully talked bad about. Like I said, granted, it's not the best movie out there. It's not. I'm not saying that it's a really, really good movie that you guys really need to give a second chance, but I think it's a movie that is verbally bashed when really it's a fine film. I don't think it deserves all the hate that it got. Maybe people, like you said, need to maybe give it a second look. I'm not saying it's going to completely change their minds, but maybe them going, you know what? Okay, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was, or that wasn't as bad as I remember it being, kind of thing.
Yeah, because I really think a lot of the typical Kevin Smith fans were not going, oh, let's watch a movie about this cute little girl. So I think that threw people for a loop.
Ben Affleck pines over Jennifer Lopez, which okay, we get that, but and then not grow up as a human and kind of be a douchebag to him and Liv Tyler and George Carlin and stuff for most of the film.
Yeah.
I mean, but I think it was decently written. I think it was decently written by Kevin Smith. Is Jersey Girl on anything? I don't think it was.
No, I mean it's like Cinemax. If you subscribe to that, otherwise you got to rent it.
Gotcha. All right, going to our last film is going to be our feature / actual revisited film. I think this is a movie that most people know, which is why we made it the feature, because it's I think more well known than The Cutting Edge was, and that is 1992's sports film White Man Can't Jump. White Man Can't Jump came out March 27th, 1992. Had a budget of $31 million. It had a weekend opening of $14.7 million, which was #1 its opening weekend, and spent 2 weeks at the #1 spot. Had a finished box office of $90.75 million, $76.25 million domestic, $14.5 million international. Honestly, I had not seen this movie, I think, since it came out. It was always I would always catch it in brief snippets on TV, and it was always on them, playing basketball or Jeopardy, which was all I heard about this movie was basketball and Jeopardy, and I mean that's really what this movie is for the most part. But I mean, you got Wesley Snipes, who's in the zone of Wesley Snipes. This is right after Major League, but just before Passenger 57. Yeah, Woody Harrelson. Even though he's been around for a good bit, he's still like not. I don't think he was still quite there yet. It's like top tier.
Yeah, no, this is kind of the year he started actually being the lead in films. There's this and Indecent Proposal like the same year.
People vs. Larry Flint coming out like right after this or something like that.
That was like a year or two later.
Yeah. And Passenger 57, I think, was the same year, but it just came out later.
I believe so, and a year before Demolition Man. So.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, this is kind of where we got these guys like they were both on the cusp of becoming huge. Like Wesley Snipes, and both these guys were in Wildcats together, but they were both like raw. They were both like brand new actors at that point. Whereas like this, like Wesley Snipes was definitely the bigger name, and then you also got Rosie Perez in this as well. But yeah, like if you like basketball, you're gonna like this movie. If you don't like basketball, you're probably not gonna like this film that much because it's very basketball driven. But the thing that really kind of makes this movie memorable or as good as it is the chemistry and the dialogue back and forth between Wesley Snipes and Woody Harrelson. These two know how to work together. I think there was their second film out of 3 that they worked with. Weren't they both in Money Train?
They were both in Money Train, and technically they were both in Play It to the Bone, although Wesley Snipes just a cameo as himself, though.
That doesn't count. They have no scene together. But I mean, like, they are so good together, especially in a role like this where they're just talking shit to each other the entire time. Like, the first interaction between them, they're basically their pissing contest where they're playing, like, a best of 5. Like, Wesley Snipes is so good, and, like, Woody Harrelson is playing the hustler role. I love just... I could, like, listen to... Like, honestly, I probably couldn't listen to them talk all day. I would just be like, shut up. But they're so good in this film, and Rosie Perez is also really good in this film, and I don't think she gets enough recognition for her performance in this film as well. Jeopardy also gets a good nod in this film a lot because Jeopardy is mentioned like 10 times in this movie. But there's some great little characters as well, and there's like Wesley Snipes' friends and his it's his wife, right? Or is it a girlfriend?
I believe his wife. Yeah,
I think it's his wife. Yeah. They're all great side characters. I mean, clearly it's these 3, Rosie Perez, Woody Harrelson, and Wesley Snipes. But I enjoy it. It's great basketball, great trash talking, and just a great story. I wasn't necessarily a huge fan of the end, but I think it's a solid sports film. What are your thoughts on White Man Can't Jump?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a solid sports film. I mean, it's directed by Ron Shelton, who also did Bull Durham. He did Tin Cup. Play It to the Bone, which I mentioned he did that too, but he's done some.
I'm a huge fan of Tin Cup and Play It to the Bone.
Oh yeah.
Not enough people know Play It to the Bone.
So I mean, he's really good at making movies that they aren't really even about the sport, but they're kind of set to the backdrop of the sport, and that's kind of think this is. With the one point I disagree with you on is I think that you talked about if you're not into basketball, you might not enjoy this movie. I disagree because I actually know several people like just on my Letterboxd who are really not into sports at all, who really enjoyed this movie. And
I just think because there's so many basketball scenes where they're just playing basketball, that's not going to really be much to them. Because there's a lot of...
I agree, but even those scenes aren't really about the basketball. They're kind of about the con and things like that. And or about like like you said, the early scene with the 2 of them in the best of 5 contest. It's about the chemistry between them, the banter, the trash talk, the chemistry between them. And these 2, I think they work perfectly together. I think it was spectacular casting. Obviously, since they cast him again in another movie later on, which I think other people apparently thought the same thing. Rosie Perez, I really enjoyed in this movie. She can get annoying sometimes in some movies.
Yeah.
But I think there was just the right amount of Rosie Perez in this one. I will say the second half of the movie for me, like, really kind of slows down, like drags down, because the first half is just kind of fun. And the second half, it tries to get a little bit more serious and stuff, and and I still enjoy it, but you're kind of like, okay, I kind of missed the fun of the first half a little bit.
I can agree with you on that. Like I said, like the inevitable ending, it's like it kind of leaves it.
At the very ending, I was a little disappointed. Yeah.
A little open-ended, especially with one of the characters. Like, well, wait, what happens with them? It's like, oh, they're just gonna go play basketball. It's like, okay, but I kind of wanted a finality of what was going on with 2 of these characters in this film. But no, I mean, like I said, I love basketball, so watching them play, like, obviously, like, it's Wesley Snipes and Woody Harrelson actually playing. Granted, it probably wasn't them playing the entire time. I probably probably Wesley played the entire time. He's
I think a lot of it was them playing. It just might have taken multiple takes or creative editing.
Yeah, like that hook shot that Woody Harrelson hit. I'm like, dude, that did more than just.
The best of 5 contest. Each one took 10 shots.
Oh yeah, there was one where like for most of the time they kept them in camera, and then like I think the last Woody Harrelson shot they actually took him off camera. I was like, oh, did he not make the last shot? But no, like they have some great one-liners back and forth. Like just there's a lot of yo mama jokes in this, but they're all funny. By today's standards they're lame, but back then it was like awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that's the other thing too, is there's the underlining story of Wesley Snipes is trying to have a better life for him and his family. But basketball is his life, but he's also got his family life, and he's juggling a bunch of other jobs. So I kind of wish he would have focused more on that. You only get like really one small scene of him working on that, where Woody Harrelson is this guy who just can't get out of his own way. When something good happens, he's got to talk himself into a corner, and he constantly puts himself in a bad situation, which he just keeps building on through most of the film.
Yeah, the movie just starts out with him already in the hole because he's like in debt, like was it $8,000 to somebody?
So, no, he was in debt like more than that. Like, because like when he got home, they had $8,000 in the jar, and she says we still need $7,000 more. So I think he was more like 16K in the hole with them.
I thought it was he owed $8,000, and she said we now have like $800 or whatever, so we need another 7,153 or whatever it was.
Okay,
anyway, the point is he's already in the hole, and he continues to get in his own way of these things.
Because he keeps winning money, and then he keeps opening his mouth and betting that money again. He's a gambler. Let's put it that way. He's a gambler, but he's gambling on his physical ability. He's not gambling on other people. He's gambling on himself. And while he's good at what he does, he puts himself in a situation that he can't win in certain cases. But I mean, and I would say he grows as the movie goes on, but at the end it really shows he hasn't really grown at all. He hasn't. I would say Wesley Snipes' character grows, for the most part. But it's fun. It's a fun film with two actors. I actually would love not a sequel to this, but I would love to see Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes again, because right now like Woody Harrelson is like very, very high. As he is, and Wesley's like kind of climbing back up. He's trying to get there. I would love to see them collaborate again in some of their film, whether it be action or drama, because Wesley Snipes can do drama. He just prefers to do action shit, but he's older now, so maybe he should, or comedy with them. I would love to just see these two get back together and do something again after all these years.
I would, and not a sequel to this. I think there's a remake being made actually, but
I think I heard that too. Yeah.
But I would love to see just them like kind of like they did with Money Train. I'd like to see them again in another movie of some kind.
Yeah, I would love to see them work again, especially because Wesley Snipes is the bigger name now. Just to see what they can come up with. Yeah. Because Wesley Snipes needs to be able to do something besides Eddie Murphy movies. Because I think that's like the last two movies he did was Coming to America and Dolomite, which he's good in both. I just wanted to see him do more.
He was in the third Expendables, I think.
I don't think I saw the third one.
I think actually he was one of the better parts of that actually, because I'm not a fan of Expendables, but I think I liked him.
Wesley Snipes is usually the better part of most movies he's in. The problem is he's just difficult to work with.
Well, and the problem is probably because of his difficult to work with, and maybe other factors, is that he became one of those actors who kind of killed his own legacy, because he did the Bruce Willis thing of starting to do just like endless straight-to-video movies. And so he's got now trying to climb back up and get people to take him seriously as an actor. Go, oh no, I can be in A-list movies again. And I hope he can, because I'd like to see him do more again.
I mean, he basically wrote his entire career on Blade, but then Blade fell apart in the third one, and then all the tax evasion shit and everything happened. But he's working back towards it. Like I hope we get more Wesley Snipes, because I've always enjoyed him. But yeah, anything else for White Man Can't Jump?
No, that's all I got on that one. That one is not currently available for free anywhere.
I also felt Rosie Perez's pain in Jeopardy when she doesn't say Vesuvius correctly, and they had to go to the judges, because I feel that personally. If anyone knows my movie trivia career, I totally get where she's coming from with that. And as I was watching the scene, I was like, oh, I feel her pain right now. But anyway, that's an inside joke for people who are in movie trivia who watch this. But yes, yeah, that's our show. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed my heated rant about It Follows and all the other films. Don't roll your eyes. But wait till we do Hereditary, and then you can just sit there and do all that crap, and I'll be like, see, I'm not the only one. But anyway, I'm sure there's other movies you can pick that you can get that angry about besides Hereditary.
No,
but
I'm not criticizing you. I'm amused by your rant.
because you don't, I mean, I get
just
heated.
because I understand. I understand not liking the movie. I'm just amused by your fiery hatred of this of all movies. That's all.
Everyone knows that I am very passionate, and when it's something that I passionately hate, it's even more angry about stuff. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you guys did, hit that like, share, subscribe button to the channel. Also, don't forget to follow us on all the social media outlets you see below. If you guys like hearing Brian and I talk about random films, and you guys are up to date with the current stuff, Brian and I recently just did a spoiler review of Zack Snyder's Justice League, so be on the lookout for that. It's already on the site, so feel free to watch that. It's definitely interesting. We both had some pretty interesting takes on the film because it's a very interesting film to watch for 4 straight hours. But anyway, next week's episode, I would say a very weird assortment of films. Very weird.
Yeah.
We got a I would say kind of like with Can't Hardly Wait and She's All That. We got a teen classic.
A modern teen classic, yeah.
A lot of people love. We're both one of them. We've got a thriller that I think is a phenomenal. We both are in agreement. It's a phenomenal thriller that not enough people know about. We got another one of Brian's weird movies that he's gonna make me watch that I'm not looking forward to, but I could be wrong and end up liking it. Then I've got an old school classic. Well, it's not a classic. It's an old school cartoon that I loved when I was a kid.
And I've never seen.
And I'm sure he's going to hate it. But I'm gonna make him watch that. And then we've got a duo action comedy that you would never think would ever be a thing. But if you were around in the 90s, you probably know what this movie is. So figure out what those movies are, and we'll see you here this time again next week. Also, movie-wise, I think, what was it? Nobody came out today, since this is airing on Friday. Nobody.
Friday, and then Godzilla vs. Kong is Wednesday.
Yes, which I'm expecting we will both have a spoiler review for, hopefully Team Godzilla winning.
Team Kong.
No. If it was Peter Jackson's Kong, I'd be like, go Kong. and then we're going to end it right there on that. So until next time, I'm Sean Wasserkrug. That's Brian Michaels. Until we see you, good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Movie Crusaders.
You're still here? It's over. Go home.